Right then, let's get into last night's game in a lot more detail. And joining us now is Dutch football expert Marcel Van Der Kraan. Marcel, welcome to Inside Gooners. We didn't see it coming. Did you see that coming?
Well, I saw a small defeat coming because I could tell the way PSV were crashing after the winter break in the Dutch league. It wasn't giving us much hope for this tie, and especially with the amount of quality that Arsenal have on the pitch. I know they have not been scoring many goals in England, but there is always the potential, and the potential really came at the wrong moment for PSV Eindhoven. Every fan in Eindhoven, everybody in that stadium was completely knocked back by what they saw from Arsenal last night.
I mean, Arsenal were brilliant, there's no doubt about that. But from a PSV perspective, should they have modified their game plan a little bit? We all expected them to come out and play on the front foot and leave spaces. That's exactly what they did, and Arsenal were able to expose those. Is there a case, and is there some talk now in the Netherlands that maybe PSV were a little bit naive in their approach?
The manager of PSV Eindhoven, Peter Bos, has been really applauded for his lovely attacking style of football. He's a typical Dutch coach. You know, in the 70s, we played like this, you know, on the front foot, high pressure, grab the opponent by the throat. For that reason, Peter Bos is also a major lover of Pep Guardiola's style and attacking ways. He wanted to do that right from the start of his career. He's done it everywhere, Olympique Lyon, Dortmund, Leverkusen, and he's done it at PSV Eindhoven. Last year, it brought a lot of success. You know, he won the league and he qualified for Europe, for the Champions League. And in this Champions League, only a couple of weeks ago, they had this fantastic game with exactly the same approach and the same attacking style against Juventus. If that game hadn't been going so well, it would have been a reason to adapt against Arsenal. But Bos is a man who sticks to his own principles, and sometimes you get the lid on your nose, we say here, and that really happened yesterday. I cannot think of a game of PSV Eindhoven in their entire European history, and they play some great games, great competition, never where they've been punished like this by the side.
Marcel, I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, was there much anger among the PSV fans around the possibility of Miles Lewis-Skelly being sent off for a second yellow card? There's no doubt that he was a little bit fortunate not to pick up a second caution, or did things just escalate so much that that's almost a side issue now? And the second part of my question is regarding the second leg. There's talk about Mikel Arteta resting players, but do you think Peter Bosz will play the kids as well?
Well, about the second yellow card, which should have been handed out, in my opinion, in the eyes of everybody in the stand, you could probably see some of the fans in the slow motion of the TV footage that the fans were going absolutely mental, and that was really the feeling. And Peter Bosz didn't want to carry on too much after the game about this tackle, because it looks silly when you start moaning about that when you've just had 7 goals against you. But it would have made, of course, a big difference in that game. And I think he was extremely lucky, and nobody can believe what was in his mind, not to punish him with that second yellow, especially when you saw the footage from behind, the slow motion. It looked even worse. You know, it could have been a straight red, but maybe I'm too Dutch here and not.
Come on, Marcel.
But you know, it would have made a difference, of course, in this game. And it's one of those nights when everything goes against you. And of course, the fans start to realise no point in the second half moaning about this moment anymore, because we are just being played off the park by this Arsenal side. And was there anger? Yes and no. There is frustration, because when you've been watching a side by the same coach, the same players who played for the last 18 months up until Christmas, absolutely brilliant football. There was a moment that all the media in the Netherlands was saying, look, the Eredivisie has gone so boring. We might as well hand the trophy in the Eredivisie to PSV Eindhoven at Christmas, and then we can all start with a clean slate. The downfall is absolutely not understandable for anyone. And maybe one thing helped to avoid any real anger in the stadium. It's carnival in the Netherlands, and especially Eindhoven is one. It was the capital of Netherlands Carnival. The fans probably had a couple of pints before the game as well.
At least they had a good time if they didn't get the result that they were looking for. Marcel, thank you very, very much for joining us. Really appreciate your insights.
Cheers, guys.
Clive, let's start with you on this, because I think the big question off the back of last night's result and performance is what was different? This is a team that for a couple of games now we've been looking at them and being a little bit frustrated by the lack of creativity, the lack of spark in the final third. Yet everything seemed to click yesterday. So what in your eyes was different?
Oh, see, I think for me, when people talk about creativity, they tend to think about, oh, this creative player is not playing well. When I think of creativity, I think of movement, because a passer needs someone to pass to. And I thought our movement was really, really unstructured and really, really good. A couple of things that really went for us in the game. I thought our centre-backs pushed up against Luke de Jong really, really well, and they knew he wasn't going to run in behind them, so they squeezed. And suddenly it became a smaller pitch, right? So you have a situation where you've got a few creative players, but creative players are really good when they're quite close to other creative players, because they can use proximity to really move the ball and go around corners. So I thought the way the game plan was set up was really, really good. But for me, I'm sure Adrian's quite good at this stuff as well. So I thought the key was our centre-backs that were magnificent to start with, but the key was our full-backs. I thought their running lines, if you look at the first few goals, all in that sort of inside half space, the runners there, that to me was key. Their freedom of movement, where they were allowed to go, because we had a solid platform, was the key to adding more threat to that backline. With threat, suddenly our passing players look quite good. When you've got no one to pass to, Adrian, it didn't really matter, does it? You can be the best passer and creative player in the world. All you end up doing is drilling a hole in the ground, going round and round and round until you hit oil. Right, so I thought it was a fantastic, fluid performance.
Adrian, what did you make of Arsenal tactically? Clive's touched on a couple of the elements, but there were some differences, wasn't there?
Yeah, brilliant. It was brilliant. Yeah, I think that football and football tactics is so much about mathematics, and it's about angles. And when Arsenal aren't at their best, they play in straight lines, and the movement is very predictable. What we saw in this game was chaos. It was carnage. It was mayhem, chaos. All of these terms, and it was excellent. It was exactly what this team needs. When you've got no real striker at the top end of the pitch, you have to be a bit more creative. And by taking up different angles, like you say, the fullbacks driving in from the wing into the side channels, we saw Declan Rice practically playing as a left winger in the first half. Jurrien Timber pops up at the far stick to get on the end of a Declan Rice cross. That's not supposed to happen, but Arsenal played with that imagination and freedom in this game. And PSV just didn't. It completely bamboozled them. The fullbacks were outstanding. We saw it for the Trossard goal. That lovely 1-2 or the double 1-2 with Calafiori and Trossard. What was Calafiori doing in the box for the goal that he scored? We saw Jurrien Timber pop up as a striker at times. That mayhem was magical, and it was also by design. Mikel Arteta had clearly spoken to the players. I don't think it's the sort of thing you work on, because it's not structured.
No.
But it is. He's giving the players license to pretty much go where they want.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I loved it.
And that's one of the things that Mikel Arteta is sometimes accused of not giving his players enough of, right? That license to go into different positions. And just to add to what you two guys have been saying, I think it was the rotations as well. Not just sort of people taking up different angles and going into different areas of the pitch. It was the fact that Timber would pop up as a right winger and Partey, for instance, would have the presence of mind to say, right, I need to tuck in at right back in case we lose the ball. And you'd seen Nwaneri come from the right over to the left, and Lewis Skelly would invert sometimes, and other times he would sort of go on the outside. I think it was that variation that was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think chaos is a great phrase. I think the way Mikel described it was players taking initiative. Yeah. And it's the same thing with different phrase, right? So but I'm a big believer in this. When you can see it and it's just over there, you'll go and get it. If you can see something but it's 40 yards away and you're not compact enough, you become a spectator. And I felt we were all contributing because our distances were so nicely tight, particularly offensively and defensively. So I think that's a key thing for this group, particularly the players that we have who do like to travel. Timber's a great example of that. I mean, Timber was man of the match in the first 25 minutes, literally was outstanding. Obviously, he went back home and decided to leave a memory with the public out there, and he was really, really good. So he epitomised where we were going. I think it's a great sort of principle change, Adrian, from maybe the positional play that we do, where we sit in extremities, we stretch teams, which is great when you've got your one-on-one travellers on the outside and pace. When you haven't, you've got to do something else. You've got to create a different picture. And I thought he adjusted brilliantly by just letting the handbrake off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also travelling with the ball. I don't know how the stats finished, actually, but at half-time, I think we'd had 11 dribbles. PSV had 1. And that also spoke volumes. When you are maybe lacking some of your star players and whatnot, the movement that we've talked about is important, but so too is doing things that are unpredictable.